Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, folks. This is the lecture summary for Cultural Criminology. This is for April 2nd. Yes, Cutie went on another hiatus and another recalibration between March 27th and April 1st. Yeah, you guys didn't... You didn't get the benefit from that because I gave you the test on Thursday, and we're picking up classes again the following Thursday. So it is what it is. I wanted to go straight through. I'm one of the faculty that wanted to just keep teaching. I didn't want any more disruptions. So our obligations were not to have anything due between those two dates. And I made it in under the wire in that sense. So for this lecture, there's a distinction between traditional criminology, which tends to look at cause and effect, and cultural criminology, which tends to look at the values of our culture. And a lot of times there's many crimes out there that exist that don't make any sense. So I love, if I were teaching this in class, I would start talking about the various Instagram and YouTube challenges that we've had in the past decade or so. If you guys want to look these up, be my guest. Just YouTube this stuff, from the fire challenge to the cinnamon challenge to the ice bucket challenge to the ice challenge to the more recent Tide Pod challenge. None of that crap makes sense and it looks stupid. But when you ask why a person's doing it, it's stupid is not the correct answer. It's a reflection of our culture, and it's a reflection of what we value in our culture. Why are kids eating dishwasher pellets on YouTube? Because we value views. We value likes. And people do whatever they can to get likes and views on YouTube and on Instagram. People do the craziest things to get likes and views. That's where we are as a culture. We value that. And that's a great discussion. So that's like cultural sociology, if you will. If you want to understand why people eat dishwasher pellets, it's for attention. It makes sense all of a sudden when you look at how, all right, the thing that is stupid, our culture is stupid. And then it values that people take the time to watch other people eat dishwasher pellets. It's ridiculous. But we do. That's what we do. So a criminological example that I would give, and if you don't know what this is, please look this up, is the knockout game. The knockout game was something that existed, it was kind of at its peak about 6 years ago. And the object of the game, usually it's a bunch of male teenagers rolling around, trying to knock out a stranger with one punch. So it's called a game. Because if you walk up to somebody and you punch them one time and they fall unconscious, you win. Now, what I would normally do is I would ask the class, like, why? Why are these teenagers doing it? And most of the students usually come back and they say, because they're stupid, because it's low IQ, because they're stupid. That's not the answer. The answer is within our culture. Why would a bunch of teenage boys, because this isn't girls, why would a bunch of teenage boys why would they value knocking out a stranger with one punch? And so that, I think, says a lot about how we view masculinity. What's a very masculine thing that you could do in a fight? Knocking out somebody with one punch. This is kind of skipping the fight process and going straight to the knockout. But that is something that we value. We could live in a culture where if two people start arguing with each other, and there's a crowd around them, people in the crowd could say to them, hey guys, let's work this out. You should stop arguing with each other. Let's work this out so that no one gets hurt. Imagine if we lived in that culture. Do we live in that culture? Hell no. We live in a culture where if two people are arguing with each other, everyone else around them is egging them on. Oh, you're gonna let them say that about you? You're gonna let them talk to you about that? People are pushing them to fight. Fighting is valuable in our culture. Knocking somebody out with a punch is very valuable in our culture. And if you understand our culture, you can understand why the knockout game exists. So generally speaking, that's what that's about. I also have that small section on semiotics, which is basically about the symbols and the signs that we have in our culture and the meaning that we have behind them. That's really what this lecture is about. That's really what this lecture is about, is searching for meaning in certain crimes, searching for how can we make sense of this crime? And if you can't make sense of a crime just by looking at cause and effect, in other words, cause and effect, I'm hungry, so I robbed this store so that I could eat later. You don't need to look at the culture for that. That makes sense. It doesn't make it right, but logically it makes sense. I caught my wife cheating on me and I murdered her. That doesn't make it right. In fact, you shouldn't have done anything in that situation, but you could understand why the person was angry. Why does somebody walk up to a stranger and knock them out with one punch? It doesn't make any sense. So you can make sense of it. You could find the meaning in it if you take a look at our culture and see what's valuable in our culture. I believe I have at the end of that lecture the story of these kids in New Hyde Park that acted out Grand Theft Auto. It's another one. You look at what they did. It makes no sense. But they weren't high. They weren't drunk. They weren't insane. But if you take a look at our culture, it starts to make a little bit more sense. Why would 4 teenagers decide to jump somebody and rob them, try to carjack somebody, smash up windows and smash up people's cars? It doesn't make any sense. But in the context of our culture, these are 4 high school kids that were at the bottom of the social totem pole in their high schools, and they were trying to earn some cool points. Robbing people, carjacking, smashing up somebody's car. That's cool in American culture. Unfortunately, it's very cool. And those kids probably gained some popularity as a result of those crimes, especially because they got in the news over it. Whoa, ho, ho. And so even if you look at our culture, how we deal with prison 2 generations ago was shameful. If you went away to prison for 5 years, people would be so ashamed to explain where they were for 5 years. They would make something up. I was in the Army. I was in the Peace Corps. I had a job in California for 5 years. Nobody was proud to go to prison. And our culture has changed, where that's something that people wear like a badge nowadays. So if you want to understand things that you might see as stupid, take a look at our culture, and suddenly things start to make sense. So again, review the lecture. Answer the discussion question on Blackboard. That is mandatory now. And please hang in there, okay? Try to finish this class. I'm trying not to make this difficult for anybody, okay? I don't know. I'll see you guys around. Be safe. Take care.